So I stumbled on a video on the internet. I think it was trending for a while. And in this video was a preacher who talked about the story of Jonah, but differently. He tried to link the story of Jonah to the story of Oannes, a mythical god, and tried to explain that that was basically the reason why Jonah was accepted. That was why the people swiftly repented. And I did a little bit of research. I found something really, really disturbing about that video, which I'll be sharing. I'll be sharing that shortly um, after the clips that you would see. So you're going to see some clips of the pastor, linking the story up, and I'll share what I found out. So here's the clip.
Maybe you've always wondered how come a man can appear in front of a nation without performing one single miracle, preaches one boring short sermon, and everyone is converted. Listen, these are the kind of things that, except you have the backstory, you think is a lie. It doesn't add up. And you're right, because there's a very important detail you are missing. Nineveh was part of the region of Assyria, and the people of Assyria worshipped many gods. One of them was called Oannes. Do you want to know what Oannes looks like? He's a river god, and the emblem of Oannes is a man emerging out of a fish. So imagine these pagans fishing, and then to the shore comes a whale, and a man comes out of it preaching. The king said everybody must fast, because we thought that our God was the real God, but we've seen a man come out of a fish.
So I just have to pause there, because obviously you can imagine what the end would look like. So Oannes doesn't actually look like a man coming out of a fish. Oannes actually looks like a fish, but underneath the fish is the head of a man and the feet of the man attached to the tail of the fish. The image that was used by the pastor to project Oannes was actually edited. It was not the full image that was used. This is the picture that was shared by the pastor. And this is the real picture from the website. So if you notice, you would just look up, you would see the inscription written, the Matsya avatar. Now, the Matsya avatar is actually an entirely different story. This story is ancient India story, kind of. Yeah, so it's the Matsya avatar of Lord Vishnu. You can do a quick Google search and you'd see similar images. That was not the image of Oannes, but this was particularly cropped. The real image, which had the inscription from the website that shows it, was cropped so that the narrative could be pushed that Oannes was a god that had the image of a man coming out of a fish. But that was not Oannes. So it brings the question, why did he have to do that to push a narrative just so that people, can find what he's saying as deep? So, secondly, if we look at the Oannes story, you see that this is not a story that God can use. So Oannes is a creature that was worshipped, by these people. And then you have Jonah, a prophet, that's coming to warn people like this, people who worship things like this. So it's contradicting in every single way. So if the Oannes story was truly what God intended to happen, the people of Nineveh could have turned and worshipped Jonah because they were really religious. And you can see that in Jonah chapter 1. Read down, you're going to see that these guys were really extremely religious. It was almost as if each person had a god that they served. So at the end of it all, God was wise enough to not allow that kind of situation come. Because if a man would come in the appearance of a god, they would turn their backs and worship the man instead of the message that God brought. So let's be careful when, making some kind of connections. If the Bible doesn't add it, please do not add it. So you do not cause confusion, or in your bid to sound deep, you start lying, because clipping an image or cutting an image just to make it appear believable is extreme. It's really, really bad. So if you even look at the explanation, if you look at the bigger picture, you would think that, okay, God was intentional in his ways. He crafted everything. He allowed things to happen in that way so that his name will be glorified and all of that. No. When you really look at the details, what you are trying to say is, without the Oannes, people couldn't have believed him. And that's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. So this brings us to the question: why did they believe him swiftly and turn from their ways? So the answer is simple. A lot of things could have happened. Events could have happened which were not written, that could have, in a way, influenced their decision to turn swiftly. But one of them that was written was the event of Jonah chapter 1. And you see what happens there. Let me just walk you through it. So God told Jonah, go and speak to these people and tell them to turn from their ways. Their wickedness has come up to me. And Jonah tries to run from God. He gets into a boat or a ship, and God sends a strong wind that it appears almost as if the ship was about to break. And as religious as those guys were, everybody who were in that ship, started praying to their gods. But Jonah was sleeping, and the captain moved to him and said, what do you mean? This is an emergency and you're sleeping. Wake up, pray to your God. Probably your God might save us. And they decided to cast a lot to find out who was responsible for this turbulence. And the lot fell on Jonah. And they asked Jonah, who are you? What is your occupation? What have you done to cause this? And Jonah explained, I am a Hebrew, and I believe in the God of the heavens, the creator of the heavens and the earth and the dry lands. He has introduced the God to them already, to these guys, and they know this is the God that Jonah worshipped. Then they asked further and found out that he was actually running from a message that God asked him to deliver. So they asked him, what should we do to you? Well, throw me off the water. And those guys weren't having it. So they said, okay, so what's going to happen? Let's just try to see if we can get to the shore. They tried, and it was difficult because the turbulence was really serious. So they decided, okay, we're going to throw him off, to throw him into the water and see how it goes. But before then, they had to plead like, God, don't kill us because of one person, but we're going to just, throw him into the water, and don't let his blood not be on our hands, So they did. They threw him off the boat, and the turbulence stopped. And God prepared the fish to receive him. What people fail to understand is we don't know the number of people that were in that ship with Jonah at the same time. Now imagine if those same people saw Jonah 3 days after. That's enough testimony already. That's enough convincing. We don't know in how many people were in that boat, in that ship. So God, in his ways as well, did some other things that we cannot imagine that caused their hearts to turn. So words also got to the king, and people could have said, we saw him on the boat 3 days ago, and we're seeing him now, So words could have gotten to him as well to influence his decision. Don't forget that the heart of every king is also in the hands of the Lord. So God did something wonderful that turned their hearts away. It could be a series of events which they had been experiencing, but they just needed something very sure to confirm it. So let's not try to always, bring in some events that will add to the scriptures. If the story of Oannes was actually important, it could have been written in the scriptures, just like the story of Paul and the unknown God as well. So this is not part of it. There is no connection between Oannes and Jonah. So that's what I've got to say. I see you on the next video.